Hello, and welcome to the Unit 2 for Week 2 of the online result-based monitoring and evaluation course delivered by Cloneshouse, Nigeria. Well, you might have concluded Unit 1, which focused on, yes, data types, data source types, um, outsource data as well. And so in this unit, we'll be focusing on quantitative data collection instruments, and I mean that definitely says yes how to what instruments to use in collecting quantitative data. One thing I used to say is that every one of us at one point in time must have come in contact with this set of instruments. Either you have been asked to fill a survey at the airport, or someone has come to your market or to your shop and told you, oh, we give out loans, we want you to fill out this questions. Oh, maybe in your undergraduate, I mean, you've gone out of your way, you've tried administering questionnaires to people or to some particular population or for a particular program. I mean, these are all quantitative ways of collecting data. I think majorly in this unit, what we'll be focusing on is how to actually design um, such questionnaire, or some call it survey. So I think a caveat we should have for ourselves here is that yes, I might use it interchangeably, questionnaire or survey. Um, Wait a minute, not sure if there's a difference between the two, but I mean, if you think there's a difference between the two, a questionnaire, a survey, um, please comment on this video if you're a participant in this class, and I'll also be happy to jump in on that conversation. I think it's going to be an interesting one. Um, Anyways, we will be designing a questionnaire, and also I think it will be important for our participants to also identify different ways of administering questionnaires as well. So, several ways in which quantitative data collection is being collected. We will discuss that in this unit as well. So we will be looking at the different types of questionnaires or surveys that are available. Um, Also, that it's important to also note that yes, why design? So one question to ask ourselves is, why should I do I need to design a questionnaire again, or an instrument? Isn't it that there have been questionnaires that have been designed before now that one can make use of? So that's a question we tend to answer here, and we will definitely look at some principles of designing a questionnaire. Like, you want to what are the things we should consider and take cognizance of while designing our questionnaire or survey? Because I mean, this is the common way in which um, questions goes out to respondents. Whether you want to say it's offline, whether it's online via Google Forms, via Survey Monkeys, you still need to design it. So this part will be focused on you designing your questionnaire in a way that is easier for respondents to respond, and also in a way that the data analyst can use your can easily analyze the data from respondents that use the questionnaire. And lastly, yes, um, we will be designing the questionnaire. Like I said, that will be the last part of this session. So, the different types of questionnaire, you call it survey, whichever one. Yes, like I said, I'll be using it interchangeably. Perhaps questionnaire is too long, then I'll switch to survey. So, but just something for us to know. So, um, a survey could be self-administered, which means the evaluator himself or herself um, goes to the respondents and administer it, gives it out to the respondents and asks them questions about a program in a community. For instance, if water points have been provided for a community, and the objective of that is to increase the access to water in that community, the evaluator during evaluation, um, either before or during the program or after the program. We've dealt with that in Unit 1 of this week too. So he goes to the community to ask questions about maybe access, for example, the volume of the water that is now available to them. So he goes to the community to administer the questionnaire. Permit me to state that I'm using evaluators because if you've been an enumerator before, you have actually done this before. It means you've gone to a community to administer the survey or a questionnaire. So that's a self-administered survey whereby the evaluator is the one going out to ask the questions. The other way around, the other type that you normally see. So if you look at this picture, this was in a restroom, and I mean in a familiar airport actually, and you were asked to click if you were satisfied with the cleanliness of the restroom. Um, for that very day. So you could click red means sad, maybe green means happiness. Not sure of what is in between, maybe indifferent or so. So the different tools that has been built over time that can now be used to administer such questionnaires. So you don't have another face. So there's no face that is looking at you while you're completing the questionnaire, same as the ones you fill on Survey Monkeys, on Google Forms, or yes, some that you fill at market squares or in shopping malls, or yeah, at the airport as well, on the airplane. Just at the back of your seats, you might just stumble on a question about the flight. So those are what we refer to as other administered surveys. So surveys that are not actually administered by the main evaluator himself. So you might have also gotten a mobile phone text that came onto your phone and said you should press 1 if you like service. If you do not like it, you press 2. If you're neutral, you press 3. So I mean, those are examples of other administered surveys. So why do you need to create a new survey when there are actually existing surveys? So this is more like that differences that we made in Unit 1, about primary data sources and secondary data sources. So using existing surveys might necessarily mean like you're actually using a secondary data source. So you're relying on a secondary data source. So there are actually existing surveys that have been designed already that one can use. A vivid example of that is the household surveys that is being done all across the world, where you can see. So you get a survey that can show you how an household survey was carried out. So, for example, the Nigerian household survey, NHS, or yes, I think it's NHS or so something I've forgotten now, as a standard already for the questions that are being asked all the time, and that standard for the surveys cuts across almost every country. So those surveys. So if you want to do a household survey, you do not need to create a new survey. It means you can go back to the survey samples. There's always a template for it. You go back to it and use the same mechanism that was used in designing that survey to create your own survey. So That's an example, and that it might be actually external to the program. You can find surveys that are actually related to the program, that can allow you to get quantitative data collection. So you think about records of attendance, school enrollment, health records. Um, all this could be used to collect quantitative data. So instead of you creating new ways. Um, External to your program, like I said, yes, you could get surveys, you could get questionnaires that are already designed specifically for some type of programs. So um, you might try and search a little bit. Perhaps you can find, you should be able to find such as well. So let's assume we've not gotten a sample survey that we can use. And I mean, one way to look at it is also to look at articles, theses, dissertations, some project reports. Some people put their surveys as an annex to it, and also even some evaluation reports. So you can definitely use those questionnaires as well. Um, if you can ascertain the validity of it and also the quality of it, I think it's fine. But if you cannot, then you need to start designing your own survey. And there's 7 important things in designing your survey, and we will go through each and every one of them. Um, as we can see. So the first one is the information and instructions that you give your respondents. This is very important. We've gotten clients that do come back to us and say, "Oh, the response rate for our for the questionnaires we sent out is so poor, and they do not know what to do about it." What we normally tell them is, let us create an anatomy of your survey design. So response rate means the number of people that responded to that survey. Um, so two things could have happened, or could I mean, two things are your focus of your survey. Is either you want to send it online or you want to send it offline. So which means you want to administer it in the field, or you want to send it online. Response rate then means the number of people that responded. So what they're saying is that perhaps maybe 30% only responded. So what I mean could be that, oh, they have a sample size of 100, but it was only 30 people that responded. That's a poor response rate. At least you should be getting like 55% to 60%. Um, so the information and instructions you give people, which is how you first come at people in their face, is quite important. Um, so in order for you to maximize that, you think about the outline of your survey, which includes you adding in the purpose of the survey. Yes, you need to state that, oh, and that is in a way that is appealing and also convincing in a way. Um, so you need to outline the purpose, that this survey is actually meant to do ABC, and also that it is, you need to clarify why responses of the survey participants are also important, which means that, oh, we found out that you are in this category set of people, and we think that your response to this survey will be important for us to continue the good work this organization A, B, and C has been doing in recent time, or to add more knowledge. Your response to this survey, we add more knowledge in this sector and all. So, I mean, those are the kind of things you want to put in as an information or as an instruction to your survey. You don't just create survey and just start with question 1, question 2. No, that's not professional. Um, you need to tell the respondents how their answers will be treated. Will it be anonymous? Will it be that you want to refer to them? Will it be that you want to, yes, make their response more confidential, and also let them know that, oh, responses will be triangulated at one point in time, and that the response will not be treated as one but as a whole. So I mean, these are things that give your respondents confidence, and also to state that yes, they will not be mentioned, their response will not be mentioned, and it gives people confidence that, oh, okay, I can give you the correct answer for this, for that. So it's important to let your respondents know what to answer, when not to answer A, when not to answer B, at least by maybe by telling them different sections within the questionnaire, and all that. These are very important, and also to tell them the dates you will need the response. And in telling them the dates, it means that you want to give more time for your respondents, maybe a maximum of 1 week or 2 weeks, as the case may be. So you need to give much more time before you can allow your respondent to respond to it. So it's important. This information, this leading information is important. For some people, it will not be directly on the survey, or it might be repeated on the survey, but also like it goes in an email first if you're doing that online. Um, Even for face-to-face survey administering. For example, if there's somebody in the field that I need to go and reach out to and be face-to-face to administer the questionnaire, maybe the person uses email or phone, for example, I need to give this kind of information either on phone or via email to the person. So, in order to get the buy-in of the respondents, that's very, very important. Um, then you think about the content of your survey. Um, so what's actually inside the questionnaire itself uh, is very important. What we've done for this class, if you check your unit 2, we have provided some sample questions which you can actually look at. A short one, there's a short one, and there's a long one as well. So you can see a survey that is like this, that was self-administered, and also a longer one, like you can see here as well. So the different types of questionnaire depending on the data that you want to collect actually. So that's very important to know. So the content is very important, which is also how you outline your content. Firstly, is about the social demographic information of the person, which might mean um, um, first name, last name, age, gender of the person, the location of the person. So you start with that as the first question, set of questions. Then it now comes to, yes, the opinion of the person. For example, 100 people have been a participant of your program. For example, it could be a vaccine program, or it could be a toolkit, numerous skills toolkit for the adults. So you want to know their opinion, their perception about it. It's very important. That follows it. So you now start seeing questions like uh, like uh, how would you agree? Would you agree that this has changed your A, B, or C as it concerns the content of this course, and all that? Then you think about, strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree, and such kind of questions. So I mean, you think about questions that are related to their attitude. Then thirdly is what has changed. Questions that are related to what has changed. Okay. Can you tell us how many times you have used the chlorine provided for your household in the last 1 month, for example? So that's a question thinking about behavior. If it's a gender related program, that is trying to encourage men to actually take care of their women, or to make sure there's equality in the home, for example, or to um, kind of reduce violence in the home. You might want to, yes, like, okay, in the last 1 month, how many times have you beaten your wife, or how many times have you, yeah, so something like that. Something like behavior. Oh, how many times have you um, sit down in the family and had a family conversation? Things like that are things like behavior. Behavior is also in the last 1 month. Can you tell us how many times you have been able to use the sanitizer, for example, or how many times have you been washing your hand? If it's a question that is related to wash, also could be if it's a farm product. If it's a farm product, you could think about, yes, how many times have you used the newly introduced seedling? Um, so last season, how many quantity of it have you used, or something? Things like that are questions related to behavior. Mostly, um, all surveys contains these three, and it's important to think about it as something you want to add to your design as well. So the third one is, here the two type of questions that are popular inside the survey design. It's either close-ended and close-ended, or open-ended. Close-ended means, yes, you provide the options to the respondents. The respondents do not have an alternative, would not be able to give his own opinion, his or her own opinion. But in an open-ended questions, yes, you're allowing the respondents to use their own words to give the feedback and all that. Yes, and there's some examples of how open-ended questions look like, and close-ended question look like. So you could think about, yes, can you tell us more about the program, or can you tell us more, kindly tell us how we can improve the program next time, especially for the incoming um, mothers, or so things like that. So those kind of questions are open-ended questions, and you can have, so we have different kinds of closed questions, and you can think about questions that are related to different categories. So for example, what's here, what was your experience with the early warning mechanic workshop? Is it relevant to your needs? Is it too difficult to understand? Is it just what you needed? That's a kind of category question. And you can think about, I've mentioned this earlier on, like a Likert scale, which focuses on attitudes, perception, values, and all. And you think about questions that are like this. We call it Likert scale, using Likert scale. Um, to get the opinion of beneficiaries, participants, stakeholders that are involved in your particular program. So you always get options like unsatisfied, somewhat satisfied, satisfied, um, somewhat satisfied. We always advise that it's important you do not do a 5 scale. 5 scale means that you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 here, but um, at times you you might want to use maybe neutral, making it 5, and people will tend to choose neutral all the time. Examples of Likert scale also, yeah, I mean, will be this. Um, so, but um, so you could see this, neither agree. This is what we say you should actually kick against and not to do. Um, so um, something in between is not actually important that you do that you have that as part of your alternative. So 4 is okay, and also you could have, yes, skills. So you could say, yeah, 1 to very important or extremely important to 10, which is not important at all, or extremely poor, as you have it here, to extremely good. So it's like you telling people to rate maybe your workshop, or to rate the radio program, on chlorine distribution, on chlorine usage, or the workshop on vaccination, as they've added in the last 1 year. So maybe very useful to not useful at all. So you can have a rating, a scale of 1, in a scale of 1 to 10. So that's what we mean. Um, so I mean, you could have all this also checklist, which you can, yes, people can choose as much as they want. So these are different types of open and closed kind of questions. The fourth thing you need to think about is, yes, there are principles of formulating your questions, and there are ways you need to put out your questions to people. Um, so some things that I do, instead of saying just putting name on a questionnaire, I normally use uh, could you kindly tell us your first name? That seems polite for the person. Um, so also avoid, some might be just avoiding leading questions, like just you're already telling the person what the question means. Like, wouldn't you say that? Or isn't it fair to say that? Oh, um, isn't it fair to say that, oh, going to the hospital is better than using a traditional um, place of birth? So things like that. Or wouldn't you say that, oh, um, using the river is better than using tap water? So I mean, so you don't want to, we don't want to give the respondents the answer already. So that's just the point that we're trying to say. So it's better you just say that, oh, can you give us a brief information about A, B, and C, or could you please tell us what you think about? So yes, and that's it. Um, another principle is to be specific and precise. That's very important. Being specific means it being short, and being precise means you talking about the real time. So instead of you saying how often do you go to the market, it's better you say that, oh, in the last 1 week, how many times have you been to the market? Is it once? Is it twice? Is it thrice? So that's better than often, because often seems like, oh, what does it mean by often? Because often can mean different things to several people. Do you wash your hands? How often do you wash your hands regularly? That's also not a good design for a survey. Um, could have been, oh, in the last 1 month, how many times have you washed your hands? So you can now talk about, okay, twice in a week or twice in a month. So I mean, and another principle is to use short and simple sentences. It's very nice for you to just make it simple, make it short, um, and not long questions. When you start having long questions, respondents become uneasy and all that. It's important that you avoid jargons. Don't forget, most of the field works that we do, so you need to think about the language of people, how you want to actually um, translate such English languages, or if it's in French, how to translate it to local languages. So, for example, in Nigeria, if you're working in the north, you need to translate um, to um, to the Hausa language. So, I mean, so you do not want to put in jargons because they might not be able to interpret or translate it. Avoid two questions in one. Um, How happy and satisfied are you with this program? Those are two questions. Happy, satisfied. So you need to put just only one piece at a time for people. Um, it's important that you minimize bias, and know how to reframe questions. Um, Questions like you saying, "Oh, um, are you always punctual at the school?" or "How many times were you punctual?" People think punctuality is a society thing. You just need to be punctual. So you need to reframe that question to something that does not necessarily relate to that. So that's an example of how you can minimize the social bias questions that you have in your questions. So um, also difficult questions. Just minimize it and be able to be polite about the questions that you ask. I think that's just the main thing. Um, so general principles of formulating responses. So most people do not know that data analysis even starts before um, designing the survey or in designing the survey. So in next week we'll be looking at data analysis preparation, and we'll discuss this more. Um, you should think about what you're designing and the kind of response you want to get as it concerns also analysis. So which in which we'll still come back to yes categorical data. We'll also talk about questions that are continuous data, questions that are actually discrete data, which you would have in normal analysis turning into ratio scale, interval, and nominal scale. So these are very important things to take note about on what each question in your questionnaire stands for in terms of analysis. So, is it a ratio scale? Is it interval? We will discuss all this next week. In one of the units that we'll be discussing next week. The structure of your questionnaire is very, very important. Um, like we start with easy questions. Yes, your name, your age, your gender. People are quite cool about that. Then it moves to question of perceptions and all. Then you now think about changing attitude. So and lastly, you now have perhaps your closed questions. So the structure is important. The layout is important. How you have a design of your questionnaire using fonts of 10 points. You should have more room in your questionnaire so that people can answer easily, can easily be seen and legible. Even if you're going to be recruiting or working with enumerators on ground, it's important that every of your question is legible so that when they go to the field, they can see what is there. And also in terms of um, the instructions that leads some of this questionnaire, it's also important um, to take cognizance of that as well. So that's the survey design. I mean, these are general. These 7 steps are quite general, and it's important that we are able to use it judiciously in designing any kind of survey that we want. Either it's offline, either it's online as well. It's very important to take cognizance of all this as well. So let's move to other kind of questionnaires that could be administered other than the self-administered questionnaires. You talk about the telephone surveys, um, and when you think about telephone surveys, it means yes, having a survey via telephone and you're responding. It has its disadvantages and advantages as well. I mean, um, in this part of the world, people are on the run, and when they get a call and you're asking them, "Oh, how did this feel?" or would you be able to respond by punching one, two? You do not know where the respondent is at that particular time. Maybe he or she is in the market discussing with somebody. You might just cut the call and that's it. But it also has its advantages as well, in which yes, people can now reach out to millions of people via telephone surveys just randomly, and those that will respond anyways. So you might think about that. There is also the classrooms, and also, I mean, in terms of telephone survey, you might think about so many tools that are now being used, like cupboard tools. Yes, is one that can be used. Kobo Collect, or you call it Kobo Tools, as well. So, which uses ODK as well. So, Kobo Toolbox might be if you're looking for a mobile way of doing that. So you can go to Kobo Toolbox, and yeah, it's a free tool. You can log in and get started. We normally use it as well for some of our projects, so you might want to think about that. Classroom survey means yes, in the classroom, yes, people were given evaluation forms to complete by themselves. So that's class. It has its own advantages as well. I mean, they do not know. If they do not know who's administering it, then it's an advantage. If they do know, like their teacher, that's a disadvantage because they already know it's their teacher, and perhaps they want to make their teacher feel happy, so they complete the question in a happy way for the teacher. Poster surveys, yes, I mean this used to be common. If you receive magazines and all via your post, you might see a questionnaire inside. Or if you receive journals, I think um, last year I got a an American Evaluation Association journal, and I found out that inside it there was a questionnaire from the the organization that was responsible for mailing the journal, and they were asking for a feedback via it. So that's just an example. Um, so poster surveys are still, and the way you respond to that is to, yes, your response is being sent via an email to a particular email address. So that's a poster survey. There's also the online survey, which is, yeah, I mean, quite popular in places. If your program participants are online, they can easily get on the internet. Then you can use an online survey. You just send the link via Google Form, Survey Monkey. Um, there's a whole lot of them right now that you can use, but those are those two that I know more of. But I mean, there's so many of them currently, so you could use online survey. But if you have beneficiaries that are in communities, I mean, you cannot use online survey for that. So you need to go to the field and administer your survey. Um, and it's quite cheap. That's another advantage. You can just send it, and you get responses, and also that you can actually construct a data quality assessment to that response. So validation is being automated, not like you'll be using and looking at, but it's already automated. So these are some of the advantages of an online um, survey, which is quite important. So yeah, so that's about it on questionnaires. It's very important. Like I said, if you have comments, questions, suggestions, please put it in the comment box. It will be very useful for other students, yourself as well. We can have a discussion based on that. If there's some things that are missing here, yeah, I mean, you can go to that. We can go to that comment box and have a discussion based on that. So we've looked at the types of questionnaires that one can have, the self-administered and those that can be administered, other administered questionnaires. Other administered questionnaires are those that are being done by telephone in the classroom, through the postal service, online, as well. Why self-administered is when the evaluator goes in the field. Also that, yes, your questionnaires, there's a way you design your questionnaire, and it's very, very important in terms of, yes, information that you provide at the beginning of your questionnaire to respondents in order to get their buy-in. It could be in form of emails, it could be on the questionnaire itself. Also is the content of the questionnaire. So you starting from the social demographics of your respondents in terms of their name, their age, their sex, their location, followed by, yes, their perception, their attitude, Then you now come to, yes, the change in behavior. How have they changed in terms of the program? That's very important in terms of the contents. Also, you can talk about the kind of questions that you put together. Um, it's very, very important. Um, Not using leading questions is an example. Using precise and specific questions is an example. Um, Also, it's about, yes, the layout of your questionnaire as well. It's very important, starting from, yes, simple questions to other questions, having open-ended questions and uh, close questions, starting close questions and now ending up with open-ended questions. These are some of the things we've talked about in this unit. And just to wrap things up, we'll need to design a questionnaire for a sample evaluation question on case study 5. This is the first assignment for this week that you're supposed to do also as well. So you're supposed to also design a questionnaire for the case study you chose in unit 1 in week 1 using the Google form. So please, you will use the Google form, and what you will now do is now share that with me as you shared with training at cloneshouse.com um, as 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 a respondent. So as you will share it with a respondent. So in the next few minutes, I will show us how to do that. And I will be using the case 5, which is that of chlorine, remember. So I already have some indicators already. Yes, this is important. Um, the design of my questionnaire has to answer the question of my indicators. So not just me designing anything. I need to design based on my indicators and based on the evaluation question that I'm trying to answer, or the monitoring question that I'm trying to answer. We're going to discuss evaluation question in the 4th week. But yes, I mean, one can just take it, but majorly you want to answer the question that is inside your um, indicators. That is the most important part. You cannot just design a questionnaire without coming to your indicators. So I will be coming here, and what I'll do is focus on perhaps the outcome. Yeah, because most of your questions in terms of questionnaire would answer indicator questions or criteria that are in your outcome or the output stage. So I'll focus on the output stage, and I'm going to make it short. So for instance, let me say that I'm going to focus on um, the percentage of the household using chlorine to purify their water, for example. So I could say my evaluation question is to find out the extent at which households uses the chlorine that was provided for them in the program. That's an evaluation. That could be an evaluation question, and I can also just maybe think about diarrhea. And one thing we normally do in our questionnaire. So my questionnaire means is targeted at the beneficiaries, maybe the male in the household, for example, um, who took part, who got chlorine, or maybe they didn't get anyways. So, but I mean to households in Kiribati, for example. So I will focus. So one thing we normally do is to make sure, yes, our questionnaire can cover a whole lot of our indicators. But because I would don't do more than 5 questions in this demonstration, so I will maybe focus on 9 and 11, or 10 and 11, for example. So you can just come to if you want to go to the Google form and create a Google form. You can go to your email and come to this button on the far right, and you will see Drive. This is one way of getting at it. And you come to New, and you can see Google Docs, more, then you see Google Forms. That's one way to do it. Another way to get to your forms or to create forms or questionnaires, as the case may be, is to just type forms.google.com and it takes you to the form. You will see this. It's just for you to click on the blank form and there you go. You have this. So I'm going to use this that has been opened, and you'll see untitled form, which is the title of the form. So I could say chlorine. So chlorine distribution program survey. So I click on this, it changes to that, and yes, this is how the Google Forms looks like. It has several questions in here. This is by default. You have a description, so you want to start with a description. Yes, this survey, don't forget the purpose. This survey is designed to understand the extent at which chlorine is being used in households in Kiribati, because you are an important stakeholder in Kiribati. We feel your response would give more insight on how to improve on the program and also how other implementers can improve access to clean water, for instance. So I mean, this is part of the purpose. You can go on and on. You should go on and talk about, yes, your response will be anonymized and we will not directly refer to your response. Rather, we will be triangulating responses and using that to create insight. This is very important. Even if you're going to hire enumerators, they should be able to interpret this to the respondents. Is very, very important as well. So that's the introduction part. So just to explain, the plus sign could make you add the next question. So this untitled question means the question you want to ask, which you can click on and say, kindly provide us your first name. So Google automatically uses artificial intelligence to just give you the kind of answer. If this is this is just a short answer, short paragraph answer. You can click and change. So you can see that you can have a paragraph question, which is the long text. Multiple choice questions. You need to be careful when using Google Forms. Multiple choice doesn't mean that you can pick 3 out of 5. It just means you can only pick one alternative or one option. It is with check boxes that you can pick several options. So you need to be careful about that. Drop down. Then you have your linear scale, which I call, yes, the scale which I mentioned the other time. Multiple choice when you have grids and you can pick just one from the grid. Then checkbox means you can have a grid which has different checklists. And you can have a date and time question. So you can keep changing as you want. So that's what this is for. You can import questions from other, like SurveyMonkey or so. You can add title and description. You can even add images, even videos as well to your question. Then you can section it. Yes, that's what it means. This means I can duplicate. So I do not need to type this again. I can just duplicate that and just say, kindly provide us your surname, yes, which you call last name. Then we can think about make it a required question. So because you need it, and you can duplicate or just do this, and you can actually say that so kindly tell us your age range, for example. So you can think about you're between 20 to 30, you're between 31 to 40, you're between 41 to 50. So it's just showing multiple choice, but I'm going to change it to a multiple choice question. Ooh. Oh, I thought it was it will change, so but it's fine. We can still proceed. Let's just say 21 to 30. So 31 to 40, 41 to 50. Good. So if you want, you can say 51 to 60, and that becomes your multiple choice question. So you can make it required. So let's go to some of the related questions of our program. How many children do you have? So in your household, for example, don't forget this is about the chlorine distribution program. So none 0 to 3, or you want to say 0 to 2, or you say so this is 3 to 5, and 6 to 8, and 9 to 11, sort of. And you can actually add other if you want, so the person can just put other. And so let's also move to so I'm going to use only multiple question because I don't want to take some time. Please try out so many type of questions in your own. Um, so let's think about the indicator for the use of the chlorine. You can say, please tell us how many times you use the chlorine to purify your water. So you could say, kindly tell us how many times you have used chlorine to purify your water in the last month, or maybe in the last week. So think about it like once in a week, daily, every day of the week, twice in a week, three times in a week. No. So, I mean, you could have this. Then you can also go ahead again and think about the children as well. You could say one question could be, can you tell us how many times you have visited the hospital in the last 6 months or 3 months? People say 2 months or so, depending on the period of the program is. So people say once you could say so once, twice, 4 times, more than 4 times. Most times what we do with this kind of question is to add an open-ended question, just like there are weeks, like, can you tell us more about that? So what was it about going to the hospital? So that's an inventive way of doing that. So the basic open-ended question, can you tell us more about this? So I mean, I can now add an open-ended question, right? Just to make it, so let me add question and say, can you tell us, or kindly tell us how we can improve the chlorine distribution program in Kiribati. So something like this, so which will necessarily be, and you make it required, or maybe not. So I'm done with my survey. You can preview using this eye tool here just to see how it's going to look like if you had sent it as an email. So you have it this way. This is how the respondents are going to see it. So how are you going to share it with your respondents? Look at this send button. You can use this send button. Just click on it and you can send it via email. So we said you should send it to training@cloneshouse.com. Once you're done with your own, with your own survey. So send it to training@cloneshouse.com, and it tells you, yes, I've invited you to fill a form. If you want several emails, you can, it's in comma, you can add several emails to that. If you want a link, just for you to copy a link, this is it. You can grab this link and shorten it, then send it to the email. But I'm going to do this. This is what you're supposed to do. Then send. You can add collaborators, which means if you need someone to edit this form for you, just click on add collaborators, and you can make them collaborators by adding their email address here. So let me go back to the email. Yes, so we send it as an email to, yes, just like you need. So adding collaborators means you have your colleagues to validate it. So include form in an email. You can actually include it in that email as well. So I'll send it. So I have sent my email. Some of the things that are important that you can think about is to make a copy, move to trash. You can print it actually and take it to the field. That's what this does. So this is how you can convert what you've done here to an offline mode. And I'm going to do that now shortly. Then adding collaborators. So if you want people to validate your questionnaire, which is very important if you're working in a group, you add collaborators. So you put their email here and just notify them and send. So I'm going to do that with training@cloneshouse.com. Notify people and I will send. You can send a copy to yourself by checking this. So once I do that, then it's boom. You can change the privilege, can edit, or his owner, give them ownership, and that's it. So I've sent it the way it is, and yes, so to print it, so just click on print. Yeah, so my laptop can already see it as a PDF, and if you want to print, maybe you change this to the printer, but I can save as PDF, and this shows a preview of it. Then I save, blam, and I save it. So I mean, it's already there. I've already completed my survey design, and so that's just the way. And you can go back and check it in your PDF on your desktop. You're going to see it there. So that's the way you can design your survey. So do not forget, this is your assignment, first assignment. So complete it just in this way, and we'll be happy to give feedbacks on that. So I just completed for case study 5. So complete for your own case study. And if you have any issues at all with this with this unit, please reach out to us via the email and also the phone number as well. And also do not forget to make comments on this video. It's very important so that we can have discussions. Maybe some comments, suggestions as well will be useful. Thanks a lot for listening. I hope this is useful for you now and in the future. So please have a good time and keep safe.